Do not believe everything that you see in the news. We all know about this, we all hear about it, but it happens all the time. Honestly, journalists, TV, media, they all incorrectly use statistics to generate sensational headlines and fake news. And it's just wrong on so many levels. And I see it happen so many times, literally every single week. But one of the biggest examples that I have seen in recent years is how Western media, especially American media, they have criticized and blamed China for artificially creating COVID in a lab. And their use of statistics is just incredibly improper and incredibly wrong. So I'm going to show you how they've used it so badly. Now, before I begin, before anyone starts to criticize me, I'm a PhD student in statistics, and before that I was an epidemiologist where I would model diseases and outbreaks of diseases, especially epidemics and pandemics. So I think I'm more than qualified to speak about this very topic. So of course, it comes to no surprise that the vast majority of journalists do not have any kind of background on statistics. You know, they might look at some data and make up their own arguments. But you speak to any graduate in statistics, such as myself, we will all know the famous saying, correlation does not imply causation. Very, very famous, very, very important. And it's really, really simple. So correlation, that just means two things have some kind of relationship between them. Any kind of relationship, okay? Whereas causation, that just means one thing directly leads to another. It directly causes it. And so it's a little bit different. And so an example that I really like to use is that if you look outside your bedroom window and you notice each day that houses start to catch on fire, right? And you will see fire engines, fire trucks coming by to put out the fires. Now, you would be really, really, really stupid and naive to say fire trucks cause the fires, because you will only see the fire trucks when there are fires. That's stupid. Of course they're correlated. The fire trucks will come when there's a fire, but of course they don't cause it, right? It's just ridiculous. So that's a classic example of correlation does not mean causation. Now you might be shouting to me, how does this relate to the COVID lab leak theory? Well, first of all, yes, it was first detected in Wuhan, China, yes. Second of all, there is a virology lab in Wuhan, yes. Does that mean causation? No, it means correlation. There is a correlation, but there is certainly no causation. It is actually quite the opposite. All it proves is Wuhan was first able to detect COVID because it is so nearby. Now, I've worked with many virologists before. I know exactly what they do. I know that they work really hard, really tirelessly on trying to detect new strains of viruses, especially coronaviruses. So the most likely scenario is someone was very ill in Wuhan, they were sent to the hospital, the doctors had no idea what this illness was, this mysterious virus that they couldn't detect. So they would take the sample to the nearby lab, it's really convenient because it's so close, and the lab would say, hey, look, we've detected that it's a new strain of virus, this is, this new coronavirus, here it is. If it was in another place where someone was ill, the doctors didn't know what it was, well, they might just discard it and say, hey, just take some treatment, take some medicine, you'll be fine in a few days. Maybe they might not have any labs at all nearby to send it to. But because in Wuhan, the hospital works really closely with the lab, then it makes sense. This is the most likely scenario that they were able to detect it first. And so this leads up to my theory of what happens, which may or may not be true, but this is what I think is the most likely theory. That COVID, it did not begin in Wuhan. Maybe it began somewhere else in China, possibly, but also it could well have started somewhere else in the world, really far away from China, because the data supports this. The data suggests that many people had the same symptoms of COVID-19 many months before COVID was first detected. There was a real rise, a real surge in numbers of symptoms, including parosmia and phantosmia, which is a lack of smell, a lack of taste, which is actually very, very rare, very, very strange for young people to have. In fact, personally, I've got a friend of mine in the UK who claims he thinks he had COVID-19 in late December, early January, before COVID was detected. He had those exact symptoms. And furthermore, we all know that there are Chinese people all around the world, in every single corner of the world, that they went somewhere else, they caught COVID, and the hospitals, they weren't able to detect it in that country. They came back to China, maybe their hometown is Wuhan, and the Wuhan lab was able to detect COVID. They were the first one to do so. So yeah, there we go, guys. Remember, correlation does not imply causation. And I see this used wrongly so many times. In fact, I've seen it a lot with the vaccine. So people incorrectly will say the vaccine causes people with heart problems, with strokes, and all of these incorrect things. Remember, journalists are not statisticians. They will use data wrongly. My best piece of advice: don't listen to journalists and media. Try to read peer-reviewed science, read journals, and that's where you're going to get the full facts, the true evidence. Yeah, that's my one piece of advice. But anyway, please subscribe to my channel. I make all sorts of videos, whether that's related to epidemiology, statistics, but also studying in China. I study for my PhD here, and also I travel around a bit, so you can see some of the culture of China as well. So yeah, see you guys next time.